Oh, I love the Taylor Swift merch. Look at how on theme you are.
Thank you. I was at work, obviously, when it broke, and all of a sudden, like, a girl just, like, screams out. She's like, oh my God, Taylor Swift's engaged! We all, like, stood up. Commotion in the office. Immediately in the Slack group, there was, everyone was very chill about it.
That's so funny. I got the text from you and then looked on Instagram and then was like, oh my gosh. And I went up to talk to my coworkers who were Swifties and they were all gone. So what? I was like, there's nobody to talk to about this. So I was just sitting there,
she's engaged.
So then I like told my coworkers who don't really care and they were like, congrats.
Congratulations.
Like,
no, you don't get it. My personal friend Taylor Swift just got engaged.
I've heard like weird things about it though. I heard one girl today where she was like, I thought Taylor Swift was a different person than she actually is. And then went on to say though, she's gonna marry a boy who has a football podcast, a football player who has a podcast. And then I guess she's just not the person I thought she was. And it was like, what the heck?
I feel like the podcast that they did together, though, like really summed up why they worked to me. Yeah. I think she even acknowledges, like, this is not my usual type, but turns out this is what I was maybe missing. Like with her call exclamation point and how he just brings up the vibe everywhere he goes. Yeah. And also, I feel like it's the first man that's not like intimidated or emasculated by her fame.
He's like totally cool with it. He's just like, yeah like she's obviously the greatest.
That's the thing. It's like none of the other guys, but like Joe Alwyn didn't have that attitude. I heard the song she wrote about him.
He was a jerk. Like even I heard a TikTok today where someone was like, can I go where you go? Can we always be this close? And they're like, lover's actually sad if you look at those lines. It's like, will you let me, am I allowed to be with you? Yeah, no, and it's literally, oh my gosh.
Like in Cornelia Street, a beautiful song, but if you are deeply in love, there is a lot of anxiety about it ending. Like that's not stable. Or the song Peace, I think, is the most telling. Would it be enough if I can never give you peace? Obviously, she has an issue with that. He has an issue with that, where she's like, but please, can't I be good enough, even if I'm famous and that sucks for you? Like, it's good that it's a football player with a podcast, because he is used to crowds, he's used to stadiums, he's unfazed by it. They're not even in overlapping fields, and he's just like, yeah, that's my pop star wife or fiance.
He's so
ideal.
Cool with it. And I think like his family too, like I think all of them are just that's Taylor Swift. And then even Jason calls her Tay, and
so nice.
I think they're just so normal that's what she's needed, is someone to just treat her like she's normal
and unfazed by the fame of it all, because like they're fame adjacent, so it's whatever.
They have enough of it from the Super Bowl they had the documentary, I think, that got filmed about them. So they like got enough hype from that I feel like they understand a little bit of it, and then are able to still treat her like a normal human being. I think they're perfect for each other.
I do too. Yeah, I too am shocked that she's married to him. But like, there's a reason why it wasn't working with the broody artist types.
I was like, they just couldn't handle it.
They could not handle it.
They probably didn't even listen to her music and like truly appreciate it.
Meanwhile, I saw a clip today of the episode that came out this week where he's like, I listen to it all the time, like the new album. I'm like, that's so cute.
Yeah, he's like dancing around the house singing her new album. I can totally imagine it.
One of like 10 people in the world who've heard it at this point, I'm sure. Maybe even less than 10.
That's another question. Do you think Jack Antonoff's heard it?
That's a good question. Honestly, maybe some songs. I think I saw an interview. Oh, who was it from? Oh, it was Zoe Kravitz, where someone asked her about it. And they were like, have you heard it? And then she was like, yeah, I have heard some songs.
Oh, okay.
So maybe she does show some of her friends. I wonder how she shows them. Like,
I don't
via
know.
iPod with headphones? Like,
maybe.
An old iPod Nano?
I wonder if she's as secretive about it as she used to be. Where, like, she wouldn't ever
like,
play
are they all
it
just,
out
like,
loud.
on her phone?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I know the Me music video, like, even the dancers couldn't hear the music.
Really?
There's videos of they're doing their whole choreography to a click track. Like,
that's
the music
kind of horrible.
It's crazy, but the music is not playing at all when they're doing the choreography for the Me music video. She was very secret about me, which almost makes it sad because that song did not do very well.
No, it didn't. A bummer. I'm glad
Lover was her denial era though, you know, where she's like, I have the best relationship ever and I'm so in love. You're also writing False God. Like, that's
and
not...
Paper Rings.
And Paper Rings.
Death by a Thousand Cuts. Even though I know that one was inspired by a movie, but still, can you really write Death by a Thousand Cuts if you don't feel part of it?
Feel that. Yeah, I agree with you.
Oh, man. And don't even get me started on Evermore.
Literally. How do you write folklore in Evermore? Oh, my gosh.
Those are divorce albums, if I've ever heard them.
Yeah, Happiness? I know it's rumored to be about Abigail, but, like, how the heck do you write Happiness? I've saw people talk about, like, how poetic is it that, like, the Tortured Poets Department is her last breakup album, you know? It's this, like, sprawling, diaristic, 30-something strong track of just her being so messy and vulnerable, and if all goes well, that's her last breakup album. That's so nice.
I think so. I can't imagine them, like, I don't think they'll have a typical celebrity relationship.
Even just the fact that she's 35, 36, I feel like if your first marriage is then, you know what you want.
Yeah.
I feel like
they've got it figured out.
Yeah, I agree. Anyways, now that we've been recording for almost 10 minutes, shall we do our episode?
Let's do it.
There's so much to discuss.
Can just leave all of that in.
That's so true.
On topic with what we were just talking about. We're going to be talking about Ophelia today and her fate, per se.
And her... and per se, the fate of Ophelia, also
fate of Ophelia,
known as a future track one of the album of the person we've been talking about for the first 8 minutes of this podcast. Excuse me. But you know what? We're going to do what we're going to do on More Than a Muse, which is mention Taylor Swift whenever we can, which means getting ready for the big release of October. We have a whole month where we're going to be devoted to not Taylor Swift, but of course Taylor Swift, but also the references that have already been presented to us from her albums. And how perfect is it that the Venn diagram of her track list and the things that we cover on the podcast so perfectly intertwine? Like, it's a circle. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's when you hear, it's going to have 1989 beats with folklore and Evermore storytelling, and you look at the titles of the track list, you go, I'm going to read up on some things so that I fully understand these. I'm going to
make sure I know what the fate of Ophelia really was. I got to do my homework before I push play on The Life of a Showgirl on October 13th. Got to be ready.
Yeah. And so we are going to get all of us ready. And if you're not a Taylor Swift fan, which, why would you be listening to this? Just kidding.
Perhaps we are not the podcast for you.
We do bring her up a lot. Just kidding. But if you're not a Taylor Swift fan, you still get to learn about the tragedy of Ophelia and who she is as a character from William Shakespeare, and more about the painting and the art behind her. So still a fascinating topic.
Absolutely. Since we've gotten all of our chatter over with, I'm just going to dive into Ophelia. Should we talk about her? First off, do you remember like reading Hamlet or seeing Hamlet? Like, what is your personal experience with this Shakespeare play?
We read it in 8th grade, I think. Okay. 8th or 9th in junior high school. And I remember that our teacher would make us assign us all characters. So we had to read it out loud so that it's easier to understand, because Shakespeare is hard to read in your head. And that was kind of my first introduction to Shakespeare. We read Romeo and Juliet and then Hamlet and I think Macbeth.
I remember I read Macbeth.
So that would probably be like my first introduction. And then I think we watched the movie.
I actually saw a live version of Hamlet. I was almost wondering if you were there, but I don't think so. You must not have gone to that CHS theater conference when we went. So. But I can't even remember where it was, if it was at the Shakespeare Festival in Cedar City or if it was like some other thing. But I have seen a live performance of Hamlet. It was like years ago. There was one that we watched that was like one of the King Shakespeare plays. To be honest, I don't remember it. I remember the acting was good, but I also fell asleep at one point because it was a lot. It was a dark, warm theater, and it was a long day. I feel bad about it. But I do remember seeing Hamlet. I can't picture much else about it. But it was cool, like set pieces in my mind. It was a great production, but alas, That's all I've got.
It's a very good story. To quote Travis Kelce, if you've seen The Lion King, then you understand a little bit about Hamlet.
Truly. So Ophelia is an interesting character. I'll dive into kind of like the themes and what she, like what her, not her uses in the plot, but yeah, kind of like what she symbolizes and kind of different takes on how people view the character of Ophelia. But for a very brief definition here, she is, of course, a character in William Shakespeare's drama Hamlet, who is a young noblewoman of Denmark, who is the daughter of Polonius, sister of, I actually realized I don't know how to say the brother's name. Laertes?
I think it's Laertes.
I'm so sorry, Shakespeare fans. And the potential wife, of course, of Prince Hamlet. But due to Hamlet's actions, Ophelia ultimately enters into the state of madness that leads to her drowning. And that drowning is speculative if it was an accident or if it was her suicide. Along with Queen Gertrude, she is one of only 2 female characters that are in that play. And as far as what her character is, she is very obedient to her father, loved by very many characters. They definitely revere her. Polonius tells her to stop seeing Hamlet. She does so. Again, she's very obedient to her father. When he tells her to set up a meeting so that he and Claudius could spy on him, she does so. She is a foil to Hamlet and Laertes, like contrasting both of their behaviors. I don't know. I don't want to say a critique on Ophelia by any means, but I think a lot of times when people are viewing the character of Ophelia, it's through the lens of her relation to the men in the story and like how she's used as a plot device to either further their characterization or, of course, just further the plot. I'm going to go through the plot of Hamlet. I feel like it's a necessary thing, but also I'm only going to reference the plot points that Ophelia is involved with. So don't worry, no spoilers. You'll still have a lot to learn if you want to go read Hamlet.
Spoilers for Hamlet. Alert. How long is it now?
Yeah. Came out in, I think, the year 1599, perhaps, maybe the year 1601. I don't know.
Wouldn't want to spoil it.
Yeah, wouldn't want to spoil it by any means. But her first speaking appearance in the play, she is seen with her brother who is leaving for France, and he warns her that Hamlet, who is the heir to the throne of Denmark, just doesn't have the freedom to marry whoever he wants. Ophelia's father, Polonius, enters while the brother is leaving and also again forbids Ophelia from pursuing Hamlet as he fears that Hamlet is not earnest about her. To be honest, I don't really remember what Hamlet and Ophelia's previous relationship are. I feel like it's like they're childhood friends or something. Like they obviously they know each other before she's off in Denmark. In her next appearance, she tells her brother that Hamlet rushed into her room with his clothes askew and a hellish expression on his face, and he stared at her and nodded 3 times without speaking to her. But based on what Ophelia told him, her brother concludes that he was wrong to forbid Ophelia from seeing Hamlet, and that Hamlet must be madly in love with her. He ultimately decides to go to Claudius, who is the new king of Denmark, and also Hamlet's uncle and stepfather, about the situation. He later suggests to Claudius that they hide behind an arras or something to overhear Hamlet speaking to Ophelia when he thinks this conversation is private. Polonius is now sure that Hamlet is lovesick for Ophelia. He thinks Hamlet will express his love to her, so they eavesdrop and they plan to do this later. The plan leads to what's called as the nunnery scene. The use of the term nunnery is interesting because I think that we would think it of a convent where nuns are, but at the time it was also popular slang for a brothel, which is important to note because there's that classic line of "get thee to a nunnery" that Hamlet says to Ophelia. But Polonius, the brother, tells Ophelia to stand in the lobby of the castle while he and Claudius are hiding. Hamlet approaches, talks to her, and that's where the famous line saying "get thee to a nunnery" happens. He asks Ophelia where her father is. She lies, saying that he must be at home. That's when Hamlet realizes he's being spied upon. He exits, saying, "I say we will have no more marriages." She's bewildered and heartbroken and sure that Hamlet is insane. And after Hamlet storms out, she makes this famous soliloquy of, "Oh, what a noble mind is here o'erthrown." Next time Ophelia appears is there's this mousetrap play, which is something that Hamlet has arranged to provoke and prove that Claudius has killed King Hamlet, his father. Obviously, he sits with Ophelia and apparently makes sexually suggestive remarks. And he also says that woman's love is brief. But later that night after the play, Hamlet kills Polonius during a private meeting between Hamlet and his mother, Queen Gertrude. Goodbye, Ophelia's brother. Ophelia's next appearance after her father's death She has gone completely mad due to what the other characters interpret as grief for her father. She talks in like riddles, rhymes, sings some mad songs about death and a maiden losing her virginity. She exits, often bidding everyone a good night. So I think that's like the most famous thing that she's known for, is just like this descent into madness that she goes in like off stage. Like we don't actually see this happening. We don't really get to know Ophelia. She's just like this side character where this is happening. Mm-hmm. The last time she appears in the play is after Laertes comes to the castle to challenge Claudius over the death of his father. Yes. Oh wait, I think I've been saying that Polinius is her brother, and oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Polinius is the father. Okay. Laertes is the brother. I apologize for my confusion there. Everything's still the same though. It doesn't make things too much complicated. So the brother comes to challenge Claudius over the death of his father, Polinius. She sings more songs. She hands out flowers and cites their symbolic meanings. There's a lot of different interpretations of what she's doing with these flowers. The only herb that Ophelia gives to herself is rue. There's rue for you. There's some for me. We may call it herb of grace o Sundays. But you must wear your rue with a difference. Rue is often known for its symbolic meaning of regret, which is interesting. But then in Act 4, Queen Gertrude reports that Ophelia has climbed into a willow tree and that the branch had broken and dropped Ophelia into the brook where she drowned. She stated that Ophelia appeared incapable of her own distress, and her announcement of Ophelia's death has been praised as one of the most poetic death announcements in literature. And that's also another thing to note, is I think that, I don't know, an interesting thing with the character of Ophelia is how her death is described as a very like beautiful thing, and how beautiful she looks surrounded by flowers and like this beautiful place, and how beautiful she looks. Later, there's someone at a sexton at the graveyard insists Ophelia must have killed herself, and her brother is outraged when the cleric says and replies that Ophelia will be an angel in heaven when the cleric lies howling in hell. At Ophelia's funeral, Queen Gertrude sprinkles flowers on Ophelia's grave and says she wished Ophelia could have been Hamlet's wife. And then her brother jumps into Ophelia's grave, asking for the burial to wait until he has held her in his arms one last time, proclaims how much he loved her. Hamlet nearby then challenges the brother and claims that he loved Ophelia more than 40,000 brothers could. Claudius then promises to have a monument constructed in her memory after a funeral scene, and after this, Ophelia is no longer mentioned in the rest of the play. There's a lot of stuff that happens in this play. So again, it's interesting how she's like a background character here. And I just want to talk about some different takes on the actual character. There's two different Medium articles that I'm going to be referencing that I just thought really summed it up really just great. The first is The Most Beautified Ophelia, The Duality of Femininity in Shakespeare's Hamlet by Emma McGrory. I'm going to want to be referencing that. She talks about how this prevailing view of Ophelia paints her as this sweet, virgin, childlike innocence, which kind of allows her to be infantilized, but also because of that, be ignored. Like her father entreats her to think herself a baby. She's just a foolish girl who knows nothing about love or life and must surrender, therefore, to her father and brother to help lead her. They both exert control over Ophelia's sexuality, warning her the dangers of losing her virginity, which, of course, you know, at the time, like an unwed woman losing her virginity, that's like a real concern, in the sense of there are, unfortunately, like societal consequences for that. But it's also interesting because while they recognize that, it seems like the father and brother want to keep her unwed and under her control. I'm interested, did they want her to marry Hamlet? Did they not? Like, very interesting thing.
Sounds like they don't in the beginning, because both of them are like, he doesn't like you that much.
Don't like you that much.
Yeah. And then maybe they're like, oh, but maybe he will be the king of Denmark, so maybe you should. And then it's, but maybe not.
Maybe he's crazy.
Yeah. Maybe he is.
To her brother, she is, quote, a slice of female protection, whose chastity he can legislate, in whose memory he can prove his manhood, while to Polonius, she represents a perpetual baby and he must continue to teach. I think it's like this interesting thing of putting women too much on a pedestal, right? Where they don't become a real person. They're like this like god, or this like angelic being that's just, oh, how could we ever measure up? But like in a way that, you know, creates them. They're not a human at that point. Like, you're not treating them like a real person if you glorify them too much. And I think that like most often audiences would choose to view her this way, as this like hopeless maiden under the power of the men around her. Oh, I like this line she points out, though, that she says that there's certain lines that suggest cleverness in Ophelia that are often overlooked and swept aside. Take, for example, Ophelia's response to her brother's warning. But good, my brother, do not as some ungracious pastors do, show me the steep and thorny way to heaven, whilst like a puffed and reckless libertine, himself the primrose path of dalliance treads, and reck not his own reed. What she's saying here is she calls out her brother and society's hypocrisy regarding the virginity of females versus males, because her brother, like all men, may tread, quote, the primrose path of dalliance, while Ophelia and her fellow women are resigned to the steep and thorny way, kind of like an analysis of society and everything. But again, is she a dummy if she's like noticing that and like teasing her brother about that and like being clever with that?
I honestly love that. Like, I want to look at that from now on, and when people are like gender inequality, and be like, yes, men walk the primrose path of dalliance while women have the steep and thorny way.
Exactly. What's interesting, though, is I feel like there's two opposite ends that people view this character of Ophelia, where some choose to read her as not this innocent virgin, but as this conniving harlot who is being very measured, and none of this like sweetness is applied at all. Subscribers to this view of Ophelia point first to Hamlet's comment to her in the nunnery scene, where I say, we will have no more marriages, to a nunnery go, meaning like taking that as proof that Ophelia is not a virgin. So that this claim that Hamlet urges Ophelia to a nunnery that is less than holy, using the word as a cant term for a house of ill fame, like I mentioned. So it's basically, oh, Hamlet's realized she's not the sweet, innocent person that he thought that she was, but as like this scheming woman who's like placed as like removed from society. I don't know. I find it very interesting that it's, I think the usual reads of Ophelia, it's one extreme or the other, where it's like she's this perfect little good angel, or she's this like evil, conniving harlot who is trying to, I don't know. It's like, in a way, I'm like, why not both? Like, why can't a female character be complicated? Well, if only we could talk to Shakespeare about what he meant.
I know. But yeah, all the time. Like, we even talked about in our Madonna and the Magdalene episode, like the virgin and the whore complex that everyone
exactly
has with female characters, where it's like she's either the most perfect woman who's ever walked the earth, or she's a disgusting whore. There can't ever seem to be a middle ground where it's, no, she's a regular person. She's a human.
Another part of Ophelia's character is this descent into madness, right? And I'm going to pull some quotes from a different Medium article called An Insight into Ophelia's Madness in Shakespeare's Hamlet. Quote, that Ophelia, suppressed and submissive, distinctly compliant, and is heavily influenced by the constant presence of men in her life. Hamlet shows few women, only two, the Queen and Ophelia, and those that exist are constantly criticized, accurate to a contemporary audience. Likely thing for us to be doing.
Critiquing the two women that exist.
I know. Meanwhile, let's look at what the men are doing in this play. But she's descending into this path of this like fallen woman. She is performing two fringes of herself, one for the expectancy for her family, and other a liberation of herself. And this is perceived as insanity, as acting against societal standards in a Shakespearean context that was deemed as impassioned. From the beginning of Shakespeare's Hamlet, Ophelia is presented as a demure, sheltered young woman who is objectified by a circle of judgment around her throughout her life, who is surrounded by very strong, very domineering men. She adopts this observing character. And her change in character is, I think, what makes her such an interesting character, because she spirals out of sanity. She loses her reason and she's babbling incoherently at court. And then again, like the next thing that the audience hears after not really hearing from her from a while, she goes on this rant about flowers and symbolism, is that she has drowned herself. Or I guess people don't immediately think that in the play. But some take of this is maybe it's like this is showing the pressures of remaining chaste, and maybe that's taking its toll. Maybe she's realizing she's in this impossible position where, I don't know, this like dichotomy of you're supposed to be sexualized, but she's ignorant of sex because she's meant to be innocent. How does she follow her family, keep her family happy, but not? I don't know. Interesting. The clear message Ophelia intends to send with her rhymes and flowers is undermined at every opportunity by the men of the play as well as by audiences. At first glance, Ophelia's rhymes are easily dismissed as the ravings of a mad girl. This is often reinforced by the stage traditions of having Ophelia act wildly or undressed, making her another female hysteric. I don't know, makes you just, oh, there goes this crazy Ophelia character, as opposed to, I think it's interesting, there's two sides of this, right? It's how the men in the play are perceiving her as a character, but then also, again, how is it staged? How are the directors that are putting on these performances, how are they viewing it? Are they viewing it as like an integral part of the play? Did Shakespeare have a point with what he was having Ophelia say, or is it just supposed to be like, oh, that's just another crazy woman?
It's, you know, Shakespeare. Of course he had a point with whatever.
Exactly. But it's created this like mad Ophelia, right? I think that it's known for, or this like erratic sobbing Ophelia to overcome with emotion. And this last quote I liked is, the folly in analyzing Ophelia's characters is in attempting to mold her into one of the only two options available for female characters, when, like every female character, she is more than simply a virgin or a villain, like we talked about. To read her as either sinner or saint without acknowledgement of the true girl behind these interpretations is to erase her from the play or place her firmly in the shadow of the surrounding male characters. And you're going to talk about the way that Ophelia has been represented in art. I think it's interesting how we see Ophelia pop up in art as like this, I don't know, like almost like this blank slate of a woman, perhaps. I think that's maybe something that you would put your wishes on, of like, I don't know, like this mystery woman that's like crazy. I don't know, almost like manic pixie dream girl is what I get from Ophelia.
No, I feel like that's a good point. Like even talking about, it's the Luminaire song, isn't it? That is Ophelia. Like it is turned into this like manic pixie dream girl where it's she's crazy and tragic and sad and threw herself into the river over lost love and
I can't get over you and I can't figure you out, and like all of those kind of things, like the way you would perceive her. It's like almost like this blank slate of a woman in a way.
Yeah. No, definitely.
That is like beautiful. Even in death.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's like probably one of the main things that they do with her is turn her into this like beautiful symbol of death, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And to talk more about that, so we actually talked about this painting before. We had a episode, the sisterhood, the pre-Raphaelite sisterhood, and talked about Elizabeth Siddell, who is the one who modeled for the famous painting of Ophelia drowning that probably is the cover inspiration partially.
Yes, that's exactly what I thought of. I saw her cover as, I'm like, oh, like the Ophelia painting Drowning in Water.
Yep, it's like very similar. Like even her dress is a silver with like lots of embellishments on it. There's a lot of similarities here. So I'm going to assume it was probably at least partially inspired by that. But this painting was created about 2.5 centuries after William Shakespeare's Hamlet came to stage. And Ophelia was reignited in Victorian paintings, poetry, and plays. Like became the symbol in like art and everything. Like everyone was very obsessed with the figure of Ophelia. But one of them is the one that kind of tends to stand out, is that painting by John Everett Millais, I think is how you would say it, or Millais, I think, which is this richly detailed rendering of the tragic heroine drowning. It's in the Tate right now and is one of the defining images of the pre-Raphaelite movement, showing like vibrant color, detail, and literary themes that were very common and popular during that time period. It's probably the most popular work in the Tate collection of the pre-Raphaelite. It's probably the most famous of the pre-Raphaelite paintings in general. And it's one of the best known illustrations from Shakespeare's play Hamlet. Like when you study Hamlet, I'm sure this painting comes up at some point because it just is so known. The painting, he has translated, so to talk about the painting, Millais has translated Shakespeare's language and Ophelia's offstage death, which notably in the play, we don't see it. It doesn't happen on stage. She does not have a death scene. You just hear about it. But he turns it into this vivid, psychologically charged image of the lovelorn noblewoman, distressed by the death of her father at the hands of her beloved Hamlet, is said to have wandered to a riverbank, tumbling into the river while collecting wildflowers. The events shown in Ophelia are not actually seen on stage. They're referred to in a conversation between Queen Gertrude and Ophelia's brother Laertes, like you said. And Gertrude describes how she fell into the river and slowly drowned, singing all the while. Which I'm like, if they saw her fall into the river collecting flowers, singing all the while she drowned,
was no one going to help her?
Like, how do we know this?
Seems insane that someone watched this happen, watched her sing, like, and there was no time to help her? I don't know.
There's Ophelia drowning in the river.
I hate it when that happens. How do they know?
Man. But I think like Shakespeare intended for it to add to this like romantically charged death of her, like, and add to that madness of her too, like out picking flowers and then singing while she drowns. Millais actually pictures her still alive, but seemingly surrendering herself to death, her head upturned in a Christ-like gesture of surrender as she stares vacantly towards the sky, her auburn hair spreading out around her in a mermaid-like halo. It was painted in 1851 and 1852 in two separate occasions. He did one location where he spent his time outside on the landscape outside in Surrey, painting the river and the trees and all of that. And then painted the figure of Ophelia inside his Gower Street studio in London. Mm-hmm. And this was like uncommon practice at the time, painting completely outside, which is called plein air. Highly unusual, but like him spending all of that time painting out in the open air for the whole painting, I think adds to the detail and intricacies of the background scene. Like he definitely spent way more time on the landscape than he spent on actually Ophelia.
Totally.
So yeah. Very interesting, but he like painted spring and summer flowers blooming together for symbolic effect in the painting. He spent multiple seasons in this location, like making sure he had recorded all of the flora and fauna and everything else around him. So there's a lot of detail. And then he painted every plant from life, and botany professors later have used the painting as a teaching tool because of how accurate his depictions are of some of these plants. So there's a lot. He also paid a lot of attention to the symbolism of the flowers. The flowers in Ophelia are included either because Shakespeare mentions them in the play or for their symbolic value. So there's violets around her neck, which symbolize faithfulness, chastity, or death. Pansies represent unrequited love. And the red poppy, which is the one that's never mentioned in the play, is a symbol of death. And then he also included forget-me-nots, violets, roses, loosestrife, and poppies, compressing seasonal time into one image, which kind of shows like the like eternal nature of Ophelia's death too, if that makes sense. Like that it lasts, it's made its way throughout time. Yeah. Time passes and she's still just there, floating in the river. And then Elizabeth Siddell was the model. She is a poet, a painter, and ended up actually marrying Dante Gabriel Rossetti. We talked a lot about her and her actual art career. So highly encourage you to go check out that episode because she is way more than just a model herself. But she was a very famous model during this time period too, and became quite a symbol, especially because of this painting. To create the effect of drowning, she actually posed in a bathtub in his studio, wearing the silver embroidered dress pictured in the scene that he bought secondhand for only £4, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a beautiful dress.
Yeah, crazy.
And they used oil lamps to heat the bath, but on one occasion they went out. And Millais, lost in his work, didn't notice, and she was remaining still, being a good model for her art job that she took, and she ended up catching pneumonia. And her father ended up forcing Millais to pay the medical bills of about £50 to help her recover from this job that she took.
Yeah.
And poor health actually plagued her for the rest of her life. She later died in 1862 of a laudanum overdose, which kind of made the poppy take on a new meaning for the painting itself. So there's a lot about this painting that people revere outside of just the symbolism of Ophelia. So something that a lot of people don't know is that when Millais debuted Ophelia in 1852, critics were scandalized. One of them wrote, "There must be something strangely perverse in an imagination which souses Ophelia in a weedy ditch." Another dismissed her gaping and babyish mouth. Apparently, that was like a huge thing, is that her mouth is opened, really obscene. Others really admired it, obviously, like stating its startling originality and his fidelity to detail that was outshining photography at the time. Photography was a brand new medium that a lot of people were using, and so it has a very realistic painting going on here that was very praised. And then also, Sadell, she had red hair, full lips, hooded eyes. That wasn't really the Victorian beauty ideal at the time. And so she would have gotten a lot of criticism at the time, especially for her red hair. However, because of the Pre-Raphaelites and all of the muses that they had and all of the paintings that they did, this became it reshaped Victorian beauty ideals.
Wow.
In 1878, women's author Mary Haas wrote of the Pre-Raphaelites and the Art of Beauty. Those much abused painters are the plain girl's best friends. They have taken all the neglected ones by the hand. All the ugly faces they have shown us to have a certain beauty of their own. Red hair, once a social assassination, is all the rage. A pallid face with a protruding lip is highly esteemed.
No way!
Very rude.
Very rude. No way.
But showing like these beauty standards changed because of these paintings, and it became like something, and red hair, even now, it's like something that's like sultry and sexy and like a vixen with red hair, rather than it used to be something that people were really embarrassed about. The painting ended up being sold in 1851 to an art dealer for 30 guineas and passed through several collectors until Sir Henry Tate purchased it in 1892 and gifted it to the nation through the museum in 1894. Today, it remains one of Tate's most beloved works. Its fame is tied not only to Shakespeare's story and Millais' mastery, but also to Elizabeth Sadell's tragic fate, continuing to inspire artists, writers, musicians, and filmmakers, from music videos that we'll talk about to, I thought this was fun, Taylor Swift's forthcoming album artwork.
Yeah!
At that time, lots of paintings came out of Ophelia. None of them were as popular, but there's a couple by J.W. Waterhouse. He did 3 paintings, one where she sits on the branches of a tree, referencing the play, and then another where she fixes poppies and daisies in her hair. I think it's funny that a lot of people use poppies as a symbol for Ophelia, even though it's never mentioned in the play, just because
it
they're
was
so
because
synonymous.
Of the painting. And with death, I guess.
Yeah. And then there's other Ophelias that we can talk about a little. There's a poem by Arthur Rimbaud. There's surrealists like Salvador Dali and Rene Magritte, who have done a lot of drowned woman imagery that's very reminiscent of Ophelia. Actresses like Vivian Leigh and Jean Simmons have played Ophelia in stage and film adaptations. There is a band called Ophelia. A lot of people have done feminist literary criticism on Ophelia as a symbol of female madness and silenced voices. I think Ophelia would most definitely be a member of the Hysterical Society.
Absolutely.
She's a very fitting member. There's Lisa Loeb's Stay, I Missed You video with a lot of drifting melancholic aesthetic. There's another music video by Kylie Minogue and Nick Cave called Where the Wild Roses Grow. And this actually is a direct reference to Millais' painting, where she's floating in the water like Ophelia, and then he discovers her. I watched a little bit of it. The Virgin Suicides echo a lot of the Ophelia imagery, which we've also talked about, the Virgin Suicides. There was a Lisa Klein young adult novel called Ophelia, retelling Hamlet from Ophelia's perspective, giving her more agency, which is something that's become very popular with modern Shakespeare renditions.
Yeah, and retellings, of course.
Yes. Melancholia, directed by Lars von Trier, Kristen Dunst floats in the water, echoing Millais' Ophelia. The Lumineers have the Ophelia single, talking about her as a metaphor for elusive love. There's a film starring Daisy Ridley from 2018.
I have no memory of this. Do you?
I even looked to see if there were films on Ophelia, and I don't remember this one coming up until later.
Dang. Yeah, there it is. How have I never heard of this? It seems like I would be the target audience to know about a Daisy Ridley. Huh. Crazy.
So we should all watch that. And then also apparently White Lotus, the season 3 finale, has an echo of Ophelia floating through the water. I don't know if that's a stretch or not, but
oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't seen the finale for that one. Yeah. And then lots of like high fashion shoots, Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, a lot of watery poses, bath scenes, all kind of reminiscent of Ophelia herself.
Ophelia is just such a beautiful name. Like,
it really is.
It just carries so much romanticism to it just because the name is so beautiful.
He chose a good name. I saw a lot of TikToks where people were like, Taylor Swift took the name I've had picked out for my first daughter and put it on her album. And everyone was like trying to guess what it was. And it's obviously most likely Ophelia, that everyone's very disappointed will now be very popular instead of more of a deep cut.
True.
But
who knows? Name your kids what you want to name your kids.
Yeah. It's a timeless thing. And
it's
like
a timeless
it doesn't
name.
Even if you named her Ophelia, no one would be like, oh,
because of the Taylor Swift song.
Yeah, you could always be like, no, because of the Shakespearean play.
I was going to say, I don't think that with Taylor Swift releasing the song that Ophelia is going to be a Taylor Swift reference now. I think Ophelia and the play Hamlet is bigger than Taylor Swift, dare I say. So I think you can get away with using Ophelia and not be accused of ripping off Taylor Swift.
Same, even the fact the Lumineer song that was so popular, and yet I didn't hear anyone really mentioning that. Yeah, so it's bigger.
It's bigger
than that.
Absolutely. Well, what I think an important literary figure for us to talk on. I think we haven't really dived into that, like just a singular kind of literary figure. So it was really fun to do that for this episode. And I'm really interested of what Taylor Swift thinks about Ophelia's fate. I'm interested to hear her take on it.
And I'm interested to hear her take on it in a very catchy, Swedishly produced pop song.
Yeah, exactly. Because like
instead of
this is a sad story. I'm also intrigued too because it seems like she's describing this period of her life as a very happy one. That's very juxtaposed by the tragic life of Ophelia. I don't know. I'm very excited to see how this song ends up being.
Same. She's definitely not losing her storytelling. I think with this one being track number 1, there's no way.
I know. Obviously opening it up from the beginning. Yeah. Very excited.
So we'll have to share more of our thoughts when it comes out. But
we will.
We will be studying every single week until it comes out
in preparation. Absolutely. Thank you for joining us today. Happy countdown to the life of the showgirl. And if you are new here, come say hi on Instagram or come subscribe on YouTube. You can watch us now, and we have cute matching chairs and a cute matching pink curtain. So come check that out. Yeah. It's pretty cute. We've got an actual setup now. I'm very proud of us. And
same.
I think that's it. We'll be back next Monday.
Yep. We'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.